A student discovers a woman has been living inside his bedroom walls for months. A DNA test reveals that a son's favorite uncle is actually his biological father. And a woman waits 3 years to send her cheating fiancé to federal prison. These are the stories we're looking at today. Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy these deep dives into the best and worst of human nature, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to support us and ensure you never miss our daily uploads. Let's get right into our first massive story. I'm a 22-year-old college student, and for the last 6 months, I've been living alone in what I thought was a dream studio apartment in an old renovated industrial building. It was affordable, close to campus, and felt like my first real step into adulthood. But about 2 months ago, things started feeling off. It began with the smallest details that you normally just ignore or blame on your own forgetfulness. I'd buy a gallon of milk, and it would be gone in 3 days instead of 5. I'd leave my laptop on the desk at a specific angle, and when I came home from my night classes, it would be tilted just a few inches to the left. I told myself I was just stressed, maybe even a little paranoid, from pulling all-nighters for my exams. I even joked to my friends during our Discord calls that I had a very tidy ghost who liked my snacks and moved my furniture. But then, the noises started. Every night, without fail, around 3:15 a.m., I'd hear a faint, rhythmic scratching coming from above the ceiling, right above my bed. It sounded like something heavy and organic being dragged slowly across the old drywall. It wasn't the sound of tiny paws. It was the sound of weight. I called my landlord, a guy named Mr. Henderson, who had lived in the building for 40 years, and he was surprisingly helpful at first. He sent an exterminator who checked for rats, raccoons, or even squirrels, but he found absolutely nothing. No droppings, no chewed wires, no entry points from the outside. He told me, "Kid, it's an old building. It's just the wood settling, or the steam pipes expanding in the winter." But the scratching didn't stop. In fact, it got louder and more deliberate. One morning, I woke up and found a fresh, cold glass of water on my nightstand. I live alone. I hadn't put it there. I don't even use those specific crystal glasses. They were left by the previous tenant in a high cupboard I couldn't even reach without using a step stool. My blood ran cold as I realized someone had been standing inches from my face while I slept, watching me breathe in the darkness. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I bought a high-def hidden camera disguised as a digital clock and placed it on my bookshelf, facing the main living area and the small ventilation grate in the ceiling. That night, I went to sleep with my bedroom door locked and a heavy chair pushed against the handle, my heart pounding in my chest. When I woke up the next morning, everything looked normal. I grabbed the SD card and sat down at my laptop. What I saw made me physically ill. At 2:45 a.m., the ventilation grate slowly, silently slid open. A woman, impossibly thin, with long matted hair and wearing what looked like my own oversized gray hoodie, slid out of the vent like she didn't have a single bone in her body. She dropped to the floor with almost no sound, landing like a cat. She spent 20 minutes wandering through my kitchen, eating my leftovers with her bare hands. And then she stood outside my locked bedroom door for 10 minutes, just whispering my name over and over again into the wood of the door. I didn't even wait to see the rest of the footage. I grabbed my car keys, ran to the parking lot in my boxers, and called 911. When the police arrived and did a full tactical sweep, they didn't just find a person. They found a fully furnished living space behind my vent. It was a crawl space that connected to an abandoned maintenance room that wasn't on the official blueprints. She had a sleeping bag, a collection of my discarded mail, and dozens of Polaroid photos she had taken of me while I was sleeping on the couch. The first update. The woman was a former tenant who had been evicted a year ago and never truly left the building. She had duplicated the master key before she was kicked out and knew every inch of that building's hidden ventilation system. She told the police she missed her home and thought I was a good roommate. I moved out that same day, broke my lease, and I still can't sleep without checking every vent, every closet, and every corner in my new place at least 3 times. That level of entitlement and intrusion is just hard to wrap your head around. Imagine a stranger living in your walls, watching you sleep every night for months, knowing your every move. But as crazy as that was, our second story today involves a level of family betrayal that I've never seen before. Honestly, I had to read this twice to believe it. This story involves a 30-year-old secret, a toxic cover-up, and a DNA test that made the biggest mess of a family's entire professional and personal history. My family has always been the pillar of our community. My parents, Susan and David, have been married for 31 years. They are the couple everyone looks up to, always holding hands at the grocery store, never arguing in public, the gold standard of what a marriage should look like. They built this life from nothing, or so I thought. My dad's younger brother, Uncle Steve, has always been my hero. He's the cool, successful uncle who taught me how to fish, how to drive his classic car, and who I always felt I looked like more than my own father. People in town used to joke, he's got the Steve genes because of my jawline, my height, and even the way I laugh. We'd all just laugh it off as a family coincidence or a funny genetic quirk. This past Christmas, I thought I was being the ultimate gift giver. I bought ancestry and DNA kits for the whole family. My parents, myself, and even Uncle Steve, since he was spending the holidays with us. I thought it would be a fun way to spend a snowy afternoon, looking at our heritage and seeing if we had any distant royal cousins in Europe. My mom seemed strangely quiet when she opened hers, almost pale, but my dad was thrilled. He's a history buff and wanted to know about our Viking roots. We all did the swabs, joked about what we might find, mailed them off, and went back to our normal lives. The results hit my inbox 3 weeks ago. On a Tuesday morning, while I was at work, I opened my results first, expecting to see a lot of British and German heritage. But when I clicked on the Family Matches tab, the room felt like it was spinning. It showed a 50% match for my mother, Susan, which was normal. But under the father category, it didn't list my dad, David. Instead, at the very top of the list, marked as biological father, 99.9% match, was a name I knew very well. Stephen Miller. My Uncle Steve. I stared at the screen for 20 minutes, refreshing the page, hoping it was a technical glitch or a sample mix-up at the lab. I even called their customer service line, desperately hoping for a mistake. But the data was cold and undeniable. I made the mistake of calling my mom first. I was crying, shaking, asking her if there was some mistake. There was a long, heavy, suffocating silence on the other end of the line before she finally whispered, "I'll be at your house in 10 minutes. Do not tell your father a single word. We will fix this, I promise." But it was too late. My dad had already seen the notification on his phone. He has the same family sharing plan and saw the DNA matches update in real time. By the time I got home, the house was a scene of total devastation. My dad was throwing Steve's old camping gear, his fishing rods and box of family photos out onto the lawn, screaming at the top of his lungs in the middle of the street for the whole neighborhood to hear. The truth was brutal. 30 years ago, while my dad was away for For a 6-month military deployment, my mom and Steve had a full-blown affair that lasted the entire time. When she found out she was pregnant, she told Steve, and they both decided to keep it a secret forever to protect the family. Steve had spent 30 years watching my dad raise his son, sitting at our dinner table every Thanksgiving, acting like my favorite uncle, while knowing he was actually my biological father. He watched my dad work 2 jobs to pay for my college, all while hiding the most disgusting secret a brother could have. The update to this is absolutely heartbreaking. My dad is currently staying in a hotel across town and has officially filed for divorce. He told me over a very emotional lunch that he still loves me as his son, but he can't look at my face without seeing his brother's ultimate betrayal staring back at him in my eyes. Uncle Steve tried to reach out to me, sending me long texts about how he always loved me like a son, but I blocked him on everything. He didn't just betray my dad, he stole my entire sense of identity. Our perfect 30-year marriage was a lie built on a foundation of cowardice and deceit. My mom is living with her sister now, and the family is completely shattered. My cousins are taking sides, and I don't think any of us will ever be the same again. It's a reminder that some secrets are better left buried, but once the truth is out, there is no going back to the way things were. It's honestly impressive how some people can justify that kind of behavior to themselves and actually sleep at night for 30 years without ever showing a hint of guilt. But let's move on to our final story, which is a masterpiece of professional revenge. This is a story about a man who thought he was a genius for stealing $25,000 from his fiancée, only to lose his entire career, his home, and his freedom in just under 48 hours when she finally decided to strike back. 5 years ago, I was engaged to a man I'll call Mark. We had been together since our senior year of college, 6 years in total. We were the power couple of our friend group, always the ones hosting the parties and planning the trips. We had just put down a massive $50,000 deposit on our dream home in a quiet suburb. I had contributed $25,000 of that, literally every cent I had saved since I was 16 years old, working double shifts at diners, doing people's taxes on the side, and skipping every single vacation. But because my credit score was slightly lower at the time due to student loans, Mark convinced me that the mortgage and the deed should be in his name only for tax efficiency and to get a better interest rate. He promised on his life that we would add my name to the deed right after the wedding ceremony. 2 weeks before the wedding, with the catering paid for and the dress hanging in my closet, Mark sat me down in our living room and told me he found himself and didn't want to get married anymore. The truth, which I found out an hour later from a mutual friend, was that he had been seeing a woman from his office for months, and she was already 3 months pregnant. I was devastated, but the real blow came when I asked for my $25,000 back so I could get an apartment and move on. Mark looked me in the eye with a cold, arrogant smirk and said, "Technically, that was a gift to me. The house is in my name. I'm not giving you a dime back. Consider it a fee for the 6 years of my life I wasted on you." He actually laughed because he knew I couldn't afford a high-priced lawyer to fight him at the time. I didn't scream. I didn't key his car or post about him on Facebook. I just moved out quietly into a tiny studio and waited. Mark worked as the chief financial officer for his father's massive regional logistics firm. I'm a forensic accountant by trade, and during our relationship, I had helped him clean up some of their internal spreadsheets and tax documents as a favor. I knew exactly where the bodies were buried. I knew that Mark had been skimming small amounts, about $2,000 a month, from the company's employee pension fund to pay for his luxury lifestyle and his new baby. I spent the next 3 years living like a monk, saving every penny and gathering every digital trail I had left on my old hard drives and cloud accounts. I waited until Mark was at the absolute peak of his career, about to lead the company's first major public audit. On a Monday morning, I didn't send an email to the company. I sent a 100-page dossier directly to the IRS whistleblower office and a copy to the firm's external auditors. I included every falsified spreadsheet, every hidden offshore account, and every wire transfer Mark had ever made to his private accounts over the years. The update is pure justice. The IRS didn't just audit Mark. They raided the entire firm with federal agents. They found that the fraud went even deeper than I thought, involving his father's business partners too. Mark was arrested in handcuffs in front of his new wife and all his colleagues during their morning meeting. His father disowned him publicly to try and save the business from collapsing. Mark lost the house I paid for, to the bank to cover his fines, and was sentenced to 4 years in a federal penitentiary for embezzlement and tax evasion. I received a whistleblower award check from the IRS for over $150,000. I used that money to buy a beautiful house in my own name, with a deed that only has one signature, mine. Mark is currently making pennies an hour in a prison laundry room, while I'm living in my dream home. Greed really is a slow poison, and in Mark's case, it caught up to him faster than he could run. Thank you for spending some time with me today at Confession Central. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel grow and ensures you don't miss our next daily deep dive into the best drama Reddit has to offer. See you in the next one.